guys, today we'll contain reading the books short to short. From short to short. Let's read them. The stories. Wait a minute. Treasure in the cove. All the quiet except for the soft call of hero in this Danny's feet sank into the sand as he raced through the darkness toward the secret place. Almost there, he thought. He raced back the hero which flew quickly out the way. When the bird landed again, it seemed to watch Danny and wonder why the boy would be up so early. Danny reached the rocks and stepped it carefully on one, then hopped it on to another. One more leap and he would be at the cliff. Danny scuttled low and flew through the air. The rock was slippery, but he had done this many times. He landed gratefully and climbed the short cliff. He had to hurry. Any moment now the sun would rise. When he reached the top of the cliff, he looked down in his secret cove. He took a deep breath. I made it, he said to himself. Carefully, he climbed down the other side of the cliff. When his feet hit the wet sand, he reached it in his pocket to pull out a rolled up piece of paper. Then, just behind one of the rocks, he began to dig in the sand. Sand and seashell flew everywhere until finally he found it, the small box. He brushed the sand off the lid and opened his treasure. Inside was every color a person could imagine: yellow, hardy, teal, gold. This was his treasure, the last thing his grandfather had given him. Grandfather had stayed for months just to buy it for him, but it was worth all the hard work just to see look on Danny's face when he opened up the special paint set. Never stop painting, Danny, Grandfather had said to him that day. Danny cleaned his brush in the salt water. Then he found a place in the sand. He sat very still with his brush in his hand, watching the edge of the sky where it met the ocean, waiting. Then, just as it always had, a tiny silver of the sun peaked above the water. It threw a pink glow on the ocean and an orange glow on the rocks. Danny's brush began to move up and down, back and forth across the page. It covered over the top, navy blue on the bottom, and splashes of gold and green thicker in the middle. Then the brush stopped. A small smile appeared on Danny's face. There it was on the page, a perfect painting for his secret cove. When it was dry, he rolled the painting again and tucked it into his pocket. Then the same way he came, he climbed and jumped it, ran his way back into the town. There were some small shop by the beach where Danny thought someone could buy his painting. When he came up the first small shop, the salesman was pulling out little painting shell and other small images to sell to people. Danny cleared his throat. Sir, he called, would you like to buy mine? But the man would not let him finish. He only rolled his eyes and explained that he was too busy. Danny scooted closer. Sir, he tried again. Listen, boy, says the man simply. I said art, not children, finger paintings, but if you would just see it, replied Danny. I really don't have time for this. I have money to make today, the man said. If I don't make any money, I won't eat tonight. Danny hung his head. Me neither, he thought to himself, and he rolled up his painting once again. Then a hand rested on his shoulder. Danny turned his head to see a well-dressed man with a kind face. He pointed to Danny, rolled up paper. "What do you have there?" the man asked. "It's my painting, sir," he said, and he handed it to the well-dressed man. "I love to paint." The man scratched his chin and stared at Danny's painting. Danny couldn't tell if the man was pleased or confused. "Your painting it's wonderful," the man said calmly. "I can't believe how perfect the colors are and the way the water seems to move. How did you learn to paint?" "My grandfather was a painter," said Danny proudly. "That's how he made his living. He began to teach me when I was 4 years old." The kind man looked as if he wanted to laugh, but he never did. He just smiled and shook his head. "Young man, I own everything on this beach," he said with a chuckle. "How would you like to have your own shop?" "My own?" Danny could not believe his ears. "I'm just a boy. You paint better than some grown-up men. I think you did just fine. Come with me. I will let you to get started," the man said. Danny followed the man to a tiny empty shop. The man took Danny's painting and placed it in the white wall. "Now it's yours," the man said. "Never stop painting." Danny smiled and nodded as the man walked away. He gazed around the empty shop as if he was dreaming. This was even nicer than his grandfather's old shop. It wasn't long before his walls were filled with paintings. Even when Danny's hair had turned white, beautiful sunrise, long rocky cliff, and playful dolphin all hung there in bright color on the white wall, and he never stopped painting. The White Sailor. Once upon a time, two children came to the house of their grandfather, a sailor man who lived beside the salt beach sea. They found him sitting in the dock and knotting a rope. How do you do? How do you do, children?" he asked. He was very well. "We are very well, thank you," said the children, who had learned manners. "And we hope you are the same. We thought that perhaps you could take us out in the boat and teach us how to sail." "Of course, all in good time," said Sailor Man. "I'm busy," said the sailor. "Oh, Krishna, I'm busy now, but when my work is done, I may perhaps take one of you if you are ready to learn. In the meantime, here are some ropes that need knotting. You might as well be doing that since it had to be done." And he showed them how to knot should be tied and went away and left them. When he was gone, the first children ran to the window and looked it out. There is the sea," he said. "The waves come out on the beach almost to the door of the house. They run all white like racing horse, and they are going dragging back. Come and look." "I cannot," said second child. "I am busy tying knots." "Oh," cried the first child, "let's see the boat. I never saw such beauty. Come and look." "I cannot," said the second child. "I'm still tying knots." "Knots, I shall have delight sail that boat," said the first child. "I expect that grandfather will take me because I'm the eldest and I knew more about it. There was no need of me watching when he shows you the knots because I knew how already." Just then the White Sailor came in. "Well," he said, "my work is done. What have you been doing in the meantime? I have been looking at the boat, said the first child. What a beauty she is! I shall have the best life in her that ever I had in my life. I have been tying knots, says the second child. I see you have. Come then, says the grandfather, and he held out his hand to the second child. I'll take you out in the boat and teach you to sail her. The first child could not believe what he heard. But I'm the eldest, he cried, and I know a great deal from more than she does. That may be, said grandfather, but a person must learn to tie a knot before he can learn to sail a boat. But I have learned to tie a knot, cried the child. I know all about it. How can I tell that? Asked grandfather. You did not do the work. Without that, the sailor helped the second child onto the boat. Then the first child watched in this behavior as the boat sailed gracefully out the sea. Lighthouse Girl. I reached you another story. It's called The Lighthouse Girl. Upon a lonely rock of the north coast of England, there stands a lighthouse in the midst of the deep sea waters. For many years, the lighthouse from its tower has shone far out upon the sea in a friendly way. Be careful in these waters. There are dangerous rocks about. The friendly light seems to say. The family of three once lived in the lighthouse to keep it in good order and to watch the light in the tower. There was father, Mr. Darling. Darling was his name. There was mother, and there was daughter, Grace. When the waters were storms, Mr. Darling would not leave the light alone by day or night. He knew that he must be on watch, so the lighthouse must do its work well. He was a great, faithful lighthouse keeper. He taught his daughter to be brave and ready to do her part. It was good that Grace Darling had been taught to be brave, for there were dangers all about her lighthouse home. The sea waters became very angry at times, and they beat against the rock as if they were meant to wash away the dust to pieces. One night, a terrible storm came up. The sea roared, and the wave beat upon the rock with mighty force. The cold water of the northern sea lifted into the air. There seemed to be water everywhere. The lighthouse stood silent, slight but firm in the midst of the terrible storm. I seemed to be trying to make friendly beams of its tower light reach farther than ever across water. Daughter Gray were awake and on the lookout for anyone who might be in trouble. I do hope no ship will try to pass through this water tonight. Grace and her father must have thought as they heard the roaring sound all about them. The rocks are dangerous enough to face weather, but in a storm like this it would go hard with even the best of the ships. From time to time, the keepers and his daughter looked through the big mirror glass to see if there were any ship in sight. For a long while, nothing could be seen but the dark shadow waters lighted by the rays of the lighthouse tower. Grace Darling was about to leave her father for the night when she gave a cry, for she caught sight of a ship, not a strong, sturdy ship plowing its way through the waves, but a four-wrecked vessel that had broke into upon one of the big rocks. Grace Darling shouted, "All right, all right!" She looked through the glass at the nine people are clinging to the ship. They are drowned. "Father, Father, what shall we do?" she cried. "We must save them! We must save them!" Mr. Darling was dismayed at the terrible sight and alarmed at the thought of launching a rescue boat at such a time. He knew that he could only row a boat alone upon a sea, and he hated the thought of allowing his only daughter to risk her life. Grace Darling was not afraid. "I will go with you. You must let me go," she cried. There was no time to lose. Mr. Darling gave her daughter a note, and he himself took one. Upon the raging waters they launched their boat. They forgot about their own daughters, so eager that they would rescue the people who surely be lost if help did not come quickly. After the hardest struggle that Grace Darling or her father had ever known, the little boat reached the spot where the people were clinging to the piece of broken vessel. There was 8 men and 1 woman. Even Grace Darling and her father did not think of their own danger. They took the woman and 4 men first, then they returned to the wrecked boat the second time for 4 men who were left. It take a short time to tell of it, but it was a terrible task. The little boat almost upset many times, and Mr. Darling and his daughter were panting from the hard work of pushing it through the rough water. Grace Darling was ragged to the skin and numbered with the cold long before she reached the lighthouse. The second time she was faint too, and it could scarcely stand when she left the boat, but there was a happy crowd in the lighthouse that night. One of the rescue men told how the lighthouse had helped to keep them from rocks for a long time, but that the wind and the wave had been too strong for the vessel. They told how thankful they were at the lighthouse that had been built at lonely spot, and they all praised the keeper and his brave daughter. Now I read you a poem. It's called "I Like to Be a Lighthouse Keeper." I would like to be a lighthouse, all sculpted and painted white. I like to be a lighthouse and stay awake all night, to keep my eye on everything that sails my patch of sea. I like to be a lighthouse with the ships all watching me. Mommy! Okay.
Xong chưa?
Okay, let's see first. Now, okay. Let me see this for the King Castle of the Seashore. Okay. Now we'll read Columbus and the Eggs. Christopher Columbus discovered the New World America on 12th of October 1432. That was the first voyage which he made across the Atlantic Ocean. He had talked it and agreed with sailors and schools and princes and kings, saying, "I know that by sailing west across the great ocean, one may at last reach a land that had never been visited by Europeans." But he had been laughed at as a foolish dreamer, and few people had any faith to his protection. At last, however, the Queen of Spain gave him ship with which to make the trial volley. He crossed the ocean and discovered new land inhabited by the people that had not been seen before. He believed that this land was part of India. When he returned home with the news of discovery, there was a great rejoice that he hailed as a hero who had given a new world to Spain. Crowds of people lined the streets through which he passed, and all the edge to honor him. The King and Queen welcomed him to their palace and listened with pleasure to the story of his folly. Never had so great a response had been shown to any common man, but there were some who were jealous of the discovery and as ready to find fault as others were the praise. Who is Columbus, they asked, and what has he done? Is not a puppet pilot from Italy, and he could not any other seaman sail across the ocean just as he has done. One day Columbus was at a dinner which a Spanish gentleman had given his honor, and several of these persons were present. They were so proud, cunning fellows, and they will soon begin to try and make Columbus uncomfortable. You have discovered strange lands beyond the sea, they said, but what of that? He do not see why there should be so much said about it. Anybody can sail across the ocean, and everybody can coast along the island on the other side. Just you have done is the simplest things in the world. Columbus had made no answer, but after a while he took an egg from a dish and said to the company, "Who among you gentlemen can make this egg stand on end?" One by one, those at the table tried the experiment. When the egg had gone entirely around, none had success. All said that could not be done. When Columbus took the egg and set its small edge gently upon the table to break a shell a little. After that, there was no trouble in making it stand upright. Gentlemen, says he, is the simplest things in the world. Anybody can do it after he has been shown now. Okay, now this video is end here. Bye, guys. See you next video. I hope we could maybe read another story that interesting, happier and gratefully. Maybe that would be a story about, let's see. Oh, the next story I'll give you a hint. Its title is King Connor of the Seashore. Bye.